Hey guys, welcome back to another awesome book podcast. Today we're talking about the book Our Moon by Rebecca Boyle. I'm Joe Rogan, and today we got Zachary, Kathy William, Carlos Ronan, and Fortino here with me. So, yeah, let's get to it. Fortino, would you please start us off?
Our Moon by Rebecca Boyle, a 2024 book about the moon and its effects on Earth and the stuff that lives in it.
Yeah,
Culture and stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
and its creation as well.
Oh yeah, the creation too, huh?
That's true.
Because of the different theories that
It's
are
like the
mentioned.
debate. That's like a reference. No
It
way.
is.
Yeah,
Continuity in American history.
Today's conversation is the importance to which cultures throughout history have valued the moon and lunar cycles.
Yeah.
So, Fortino, you should
Yeah.
start us off on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd just like to start us off by saying that right off the bat, just this book gives a lot of examples for this topic. So there's like a lot of different cultures it talks about, like different moon gods throughout history that people
I
have
agree.
believed in and stuff. So I forgot the name, but there's the I think there wasn't it Babylonian one, I think it was.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Nana.
So,
like-
yeah.
N-A-N-N-A. Or it's also called Sin. It's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
the personified version of the moon in like Babylonian cultures.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay,
so was.
before we get too deeply into this topic, can we just take a step back and say what were you guys' thoughts on this book?
It sucked. It was boring.
Yeah.
Because the reader, it
Yeah,
felt
it
like,
just-
especially in the second half, it was facts after facts after facts with a little bit of storytelling thrown in, and it was annoying.
Well,
Yeah.
That's
I-
what I was saying.
Sorry.
For like when I was doing my journal entries, it was just like logos after logos after logos.
There was
It's
pretty
just
much no other strategy used. That's
Yeah.
the problem.
Yeah.
There were a couple what's it called? Anecdotes, which is
Oh,
even
yeah,
stretching
yeah.
the definition of
Yeah,
anecdote.
which that would have been better in my opinion if she used more anecdotes instead of just historical accounts and theories stuff.
I agree.
Like that's what made it so boring.
Well, yeah, the anecdotes disappeared in the second half of the book. They were like gone.
I know,
Yeah.
yeah. Because she was, like, talking about visiting all the sites and talking to the scientists and stuff, and then it was just like, yeah, this is what happened. I don't have
Yeah.
any personal connection to it. That's just what happened.
Yeah, it was
Carlos.
just so boring.
Ronan, what did you guys think about the book?
Carlos is muted.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm in agreement with you guys. I think I liked the anecdotes, specifically the one about Kepler around chapter 10.
Yeah.
I like how she delved into his life, and it really showed the connection between Kepler and just the human race as a whole, because he was a very smart scientific guy while also having these superstitious, like, religious beliefs that most of the world has held throughout history. He kind of blends them together.
That's
Yeah.
factual. Very wise words.
I'm in agreement.
Carlos, what about you?
Yeah, Carlos, do you have any
Carlos.
thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with what you guys said. The book was very factual, very boring. It didn't really appeal to my emotions or any of that, right?
Yeah,
I
it was
think
like
this book has more of like a informative type of structure, not really like anything else. And something I discovered about myself is that I'd prefer to read fiction books rather than nonfiction.
I agree.
yeah, it would have been a lot. I feel like books work more like better on me if they have pathos in it, and this book had no pathos at all.
Yeah, I agree. It was
Yeah.
like, yeah, I didn't feel anything during this. I was like, oh.
I mean, it just like it was like as you're reading it, it just kind of like sucks the soul out of you. Just like I just like how much longer do I have to read this? It's like it's not like oh I'm gonna keep going. It's interesting. Like yes, I want to read more. It's like
No, I dread
have
it.
to read more. Like
Yeah.
Yeah, like we gotta meet this deadline. That's
Feel like a
it.
chore more than a. I've had books
That's
in the
honestly-
past feel like more fun to read. I'm gonna be honest. The Born a Crime book last year in English.
Oh yeah,
I
that
liked
that was
one.
good to read. That
That's
was
I
fun.
fire.
liked that one.
No, because this book, part of the reason I'm actually a really fast reader, part of the reason I've been so behind lately is just I dread having to get up and read this book because it's just such a slog.
Yeah.
It's not. Don't get me wrong. Like it's a cool concept, and I'm not gonna say that the writing's bad. It's not badly written. It's just not enough is done to sort of add to the just facts and
interesting
logic.
part.
Yeah,
It doesn't
there's
do
some
anything to
sections
draw
there's
the reader in
Yeah.
there
unless
we go.
they're like
There it
super
is.
interested
The hook
in
is major,
logos.
but everything else there.
Yeah.
All right. So now to get back on topic, we should talk about the importance to which cultures throughout history have valued the moon and lunar cycles.
Yeah. The first thing I noticed was probably in like what is it? Chapter 5. When she's talking about when she travels to Europe and stuff with Hillary and Charles Murray, I think those were the names. And she went to like Aberdeenshire and like a part of Germany to like look at different representations of how like older humanity like kept track of time.
Yeah.
Like in there's one example she talks about the Warren Fields pits. I don't know if you guys remember that, but
Oh yeah.
it was like these pits dug in the ground to track like the position of the moon.
Oh yeah.
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 I remember that there was like. Oh, sorry.
So yeah, no, you're good. And just throughout the book in general, there's a lot of see, this is what I found interesting. When she would talk about examples of like artifacts and stuff, I thought that was interesting because it describes how different cultures represented how they kept track of time.
Yeah.
Like with the Nebra sky disk.
Yeah, I like
too.
that one. That one was cool.
And yeah, and there's one later. I don't think it has a specific name, but it was like a bone, like an antler bone, with like carvings in it and stuff.
Oh yeah, the tusk.
Yeah. And I don't know. It's just that in itself is important to culture, especially like prehistoric, not prehistoric, just ancient times when people didn't have technology, people didn't have like a lot of. This was like before the scientific revolution and a lot of innovations and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just when people were basically just making carvings and stuff to like track stuff because it was important to like know when the sun is going to set, when it's going to rise, because when the sun's risen, that's like prime time for doing stuff like hunting and tending to farms and stuff. And so that in itself was important to these societies that existed before like innovation started happening.
Yeah, like in China, where they have the lunar festivals, the moon in China is like a symbol of unity and harvest. It's like that in many other traditions too. Like, I don't know, new moons are often symbolized as like times for new beginnings and stuff, since they're like rare and like a special event. Like, they're seen as spiritual. And I mean, to relay off spirituality, many cultures have like a spiritual significance to the moon. They attach it to it, and I've noticed that it's oftentimes a feminine spirit. Like any society that has a lunar spirit, it's always like female. You know, like in I don't know, something like Greek mythology with Artemis, or in Hinduism they have Chandra. The moon's connection to feminine energy is like especially highlighted in mythological stories that describe lunar deities as like powerful protectors or creators.
Yeah, something I kind of noticed throughout the book, like especially with the like kind of piggybacking off what Kathy said with the nebula sky disk or whatever.
Nebra.
Yeah, Nebra sky disk. Cultures really seemed to like worship and hold the moon gods to like a really high kind of standard. Because with the sky disk, it was made of like rare metals like gold and copper, which aren't common. So that just shows that it was actually really valuable to them, and it meant a lot in their cultures.
Sorry.
Okay, I have one thing to say about like the moon cycles, and because they also had it be really important for the moon cycles, like to tell how far you are into a year, because I mean, when you were talking about well, what's it called, the sun, and like how they needed to know when the sun was gonna rise or set for the hunting,
Yeah.
Kathy, I kind of like just with the moon, like in being able to tell what stage it's at, like if it's a crescent or full or half moon, and then they can use like the amount of time that's passed with that to tell like, oh yeah, we're in summer, fall, or like just any type of season. That way they could know like what to plant for their farms or what they need to hunt or like how they need to dress.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
What I was gonna add to what Zach and what Ronan were saying was just that looking at it from the perspective of like, not only did they view this as important for the uses it provided, you also gotta look at it from the perspective of, especially the further back you go, there's this giant floating rock in the sky that's gotta pull your attention, and it's gotta like, it looks pretty much like the counterpart for the sun to us from Earth's perspective. If you
Yeah.
don't know the fact that they're two different sizes, different distances, and all that, it just looks like it's the other half of the sun. You know what I mean? It's the other partner, and so that would be something you'd have to also like respect or whatever to look at it that way. Like, it is something that major.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because
Carlos, anything to add?
Yeah. Going back to what Kathy was saying about the moon and the sun, basically dictating what people could do throughout the day, so that they could take advantage of the daylight and all that. I think that's not only evident in like human society, but also animals, because you could see animals that are nocturnal, like bats, that they take advantage of the nighttime to hunt and look for food, such as humans that take advantage during the day so they could see.
So, to connect to that, what you're talking about, like the bats and all that, the different animals, nocturnal ones. I remember something that like bats and humans have in common is like the moon has an effect on a lot of our different like systems and cycles and stuff biologically and all that. And one of them, I also want to make a like another little connection to is that the moon has an effect on the menstrual cycle, which I back when Ronan was talking about like how a lot of the personifications of the moon are like female or feminine or whatever. I just want to say like, hey, maybe it's because of that too. Like, hey, maybe they knew that it had an effect on that cycle, and they were like, oh, it must be a woman too or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It kind of seems like they were held a little bit higher whenever people started figuring out that connection of the moon, like of the moon to like fertility and menstruation cycles.
Yeah.
Because in what position the moon is or what stage it's at can like the lunar rhythms and stuff are kind of like they're synchronized. They aren't kind of, they are synchronized with women's like ovulation periods and stuff. So another use that like ancient societies would use to connect the moon and with like their life and stuff was to figure out when like it was the best time to have kids and stuff to like reproduce and without having as many struggles as they could like potentially have during winter season or something.
Yeah, I think kind of going off that and what Carlos said earlier about the hunting, like they could have also used the moon as like when's the best time to hunt to find either really big like herds, because I know animals also use the moon. Like every living creature has like the internal clock inside of their cells that determine when they exhibit certain behaviors. So that could have been like used to optimize hunting.
I also think it just like it connects to evolution a lot. I mean, obviously it does. That's the whole
Yeah.
point of the story. But it was talking about how like recently there have been a lot of studies of scientists like taking animals out of their natural habitat just to see if they could still have like a sense of time because of the lunar rhythm inside of them, and not just basing it around their habitat. And like that was true. Like it seemed like they were well aware enough to know like just about what time it was because of them having a lunar rhythm inside of them. And it also like the moon obviously helps with a lot of it helped with a lot of evolution, specifically its, gravitational pull on tidal waves, and control over that.
Mhm.
Like it, with animals, I mean, that's one of the reasons why, like, fish are the way that they are. It's because, or, what's a good example of that? Mud skippers. You know those fish that dig around in mud and stuff, and like
Yeah, the
they
really
they
quick
like they
ones.
dig in mud, and then when it like gets too hard or something, they'll wait till like the tide gets high to like wait till the mud gets moist again, and they'll like dig in it more. I don't know. This is stupid, actually.
They mentioned in the book, I'm
Um.
pretty sure.
Oh,
I think it's actually a very valid point
Yeah.
thank you,
because
thank you.
seemingly many animals do seem to have like lunar clocks instilled inside of them. However, us humans, we really don't. Like, only up until like ancient Mesopotamia, which was one of the earliest civilizations to use lunar cycle for timekeeping. So it was one of the um one of the earlier civilizations to use the lunar cycle for timekeeping, but I'm not sure what they did before that. Anybody know?
Well, I mean, they still did
Well, I
kind of
mean,
use
oh,
the the moon, because like it was seen, especially in like what Kathy mentioned with like the tusk, with like the
like
carvings
Homo
on it. Like they still did
sapiens,
use the moon.
like Homo sapiens and Neanderthals
Yeah,
didn't didn't really. They just probably they carved stuff. They carved stuff into walls, tools,
yeah. I don't
the
think they like.
ground.
Yeah, I don't think they like necessarily worshipped it as much as maybe ancient Mesopotamia, like with
Oh,
all the gods and like specific offerings. But they definitely still did have at least a basic understanding of how it worked.
yeah. I feel like religion didn't really like start evolving until societies became like a grouped thing. Like it became not necessarily urbanized, but people started to settle.
No,
Like
I
they
agree.
became like
Well,
sedentary. Um,
you mean like widespread religion, like, or just a
yeah, I'm just
whole
talking
group
about
of
like
people?
Mesopotamia, like over in that area. Um,
Hmm.
I just mean like for Homo sapiens at that point, it was just like trying to use the moon in order to survive. As in, when settlements and societies started forming in Mesopotamia, people started using it to base a religion off of more than use it to survive. Because they had already kind of, you know, settled.
Yeah,
I didn't know that. Um, I guess let's talk about ancient Egypt now. So, they observed moon cycle to help track time. You know, obviously, like
Yeah.
pretty much every society has
Civilization.
yeah,
humanity's history. But I think the cool part about theirs is they would track it for the Nile's flooding, which was essential for their farming, like their agriculture. They had to know like these certain time periods in which the Nile would overflood, and you know that would be good for business, I guess.
yeah. Bring in the big bucks, if you know what I'm saying. William,
Hmm.
Carlos, do you guys have anything to add?
All right. So connecting back to what Ronan and Fortino were talking about of the feminine personifications of the moon in different cultures, Thea, which is actually the topic of our debate, directly translates from Greek to English, the goddess of the moon.
Okay, and to kind of piggyback off of what you're saying here, Carlos, is that I mean, there's also other religions that have different personifications of the moon, like I think it's Nunu and Sin, or something like that, and how just they were important and pretty much uh I'm trying to think here.
They like worship them.
Yeah. They and just how they worship them, for how they wanted like something to happen and to keep going. And for the like Thea theory and how they had the female personification.
yeah, piggybacking off of what William was talking about, in Babylon, when they personified the moon and Nana, or sometimes called Sin, they definitely saw him as a god. It was like their own personification of the moon that they used as a god. They worshipped and wrote poetry about him and prayed to him. I mean, he was like Greek gods or Roman gods. People would base those gods off of, something that happened in life, something that was important, like war and the earth and like beauty and stuff like that. So it was like, oh, if you did something wrong or didn't appease the moon god, something bad would happen to your civilization. It was just like, it's just an example of another way that a different culture, a different early civilization used the moon, something that was very important to them, and transformed it into a god that they worshiped and just kind of based their whole civilization off of. Because, I mean, if you upset him, that meant something bad was going to happen, which meant that, I don't know, you'd just be destroyed.
Yeah, I mean, that makes...
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, okay. That makes me think of when we were talking about Egypt and just how they also have their gods, because they would also pray to just gods. Because, I mean, this isn't just something about the moon for gods. It's just like most civilizations would pray to gods for something good to happen, and if they didn't quote unquote please the gods, or same with the moon, there's something bad was destined to happen, like it was destiny. That's what I had to say.
Yeah.
And all this stuff can be connected back to agriculture.
As we talked about before, many ancient civilizations believed that the moon not only played a role in human and animal fertility, but also the production and productivity of agriculture. An example of this are the fertility rituals, where the phases of the moon were seen as influencing the fertility of both crops and animals. The waxing moon was seen as a time for planting, and the moon's growing light was thought to encourage new growth, while the waning moon was believed to be a time to reap or harvest. Another example of this is the lunar influence on crops. Lunar influence on crops was the belief that the moon's phases influence the growth patterns of plants.
In closing, the moon has been an enduring source of fascination and inspiration for humanity across cultures and throughout history.
From guiding agricultural practices and shaping religious rituals to influencing art, literature, and scientific exploration, the moon has remained a powerful symbol of time, transformation, and mystery.
Whether viewed as a celestial deity or a timekeeper or a cosmic companion, the moon continues to connect us to the larger rhythms of the universe, reminding us of both our place in the cosmos and the profound beauty that surrounds us.
Its influence, both symbolic and physical, will undoubtedly continue to shape human culture for generations to come.
Thanks for tuning in, Mr. Volkman.
And anyone
man.
else?
Yeah.
Make sure to like and subscribe for more awesome content.
No!
That follow button.
No.
Hit that follow button.
There will be no episode 2. This is it.
I'm done with this shit.